Welcome back again to the Nerdrotic podcast. My name is Gary
two.
Buechler, right? Take two from nerdrotic.com. I am live in San Francisco. And this is a take two of the Star Trek Discovery episode 11, the Wolf Inside podcast. We had my modem died and I had to run to Target and run back. And now we are back ready to go again. How's it going, everybody? And John, down in LA, how are you, Jon Reed?
I'm great. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I got a nice extra snack in that I don't usually get. Like I got to eat a snack real quickly and then podcast and then stop podcasting and eat another snack and then podcast again. It's like I went into the mirror universe where I get two snacks.
Did.
Yeah. No, it's good. Star Trek. It's we're in the mirror universe.
We are. And if we're going to say, if you saw that podcast is now gone, but if you saw part of that, yes, we are going to be repeating ourselves a little bit, but we don't script this or anything. This is all visceral. So if we sound repetitive, apologies. We will get past that eventually. And if you're in the chat, we're not ignoring you. We will answer your questions and get to your stuff after we recap the episode. So yeah, this episode, I was looking forward to this. This was like the first time in this series that I sat down and was like, oh, it's Sunday. It's Star Trek Day, right? Mm-hmm. So the last episode has some goodwill, right? But this one I feel like was a little bit of a step back. And it wasn't, small. It wasn't due to the events that actually happened in the episode. It was more the dialogue.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
It had a bit of an execution problem, right? Like I liked the themes and ideas it was working with, and I definitely still think that it's better than a lot of the earlier stuff. And it actually made me question a lot of the early decisions that they made. Now that we're this far in on why they made them, but I definitely feel like this episode was not as good as the initial Mirror Universe episode from Star Trek Discovery from last week. I felt like that one felt, and maybe it's Jonathan Frakes. Maybe it really was that his directing like made it feel Star Trek, right? And that this was not that. But I just felt like a lot of the just stylistic decisions were very strange in this episode and again kind of fell flat. And I felt like a lot of the dialogue fell flat because the stuff that was happening was actually cool. Like we knew we were going to get the Vok reveal, going to the Rebel in encampment and having Vok meet Vok. Ash Vok meet Mirror Vok was cool. Seeing Sarek again was cool. All the stuff they were doing with Stamets I thought was really neat. And you pointed out in take one, the idea of like a murder mystery happening in the background of Michael's mission was interesting, right? So there were lots of interesting things going on. I just like got bogged down in a lot of kind of like annoying dialogue, like a little bit of like that long middle scene between Michael and Ash Vok where he's revealing himself to be a sleeper agent and she's trying to grapple with the fact that like the guy she's falling for is actually this Klingon spy. That scene should have been more, I don't know. I didn't connect with that scene, and it was like an important scene. So like I like that it happened to get it out of the way. Now that we know what his deal is for the most part, and I like that we're at that place. But it just seemed like a very long way to get there in the moment. And I liked how Saru came in and saved her from him. Like that was cool. Like all the elements are there, right? Like I feel like the ingredients are pretty good, except for like they threw in like a couple rotten apples and it ruined some of it for me.
Yeah, that reveal scene, it worked for me on some level. It just, at the moment, I'm like, God, there's so much going on right now. Are we kind of losing this big reveal? And we've got a murder mystery and we're in the mirror universe and at any second they could get killed or, found out. It's something was a little off about it. It's still, and plus everybody knew, we had people in our chat I think the minute Ash Tyler showed up saying, "Oh, Ash is Vok, Ash is Vok,"
Yeah.
I didn't even pick it up that fast, but our very intelligent viewers did. And that scene did fall quite a bit flat, and it did go long. That there's no doubt. So in the beginning with the Stamets stuff you were talking about, the beginning shot where it swoops in, the Discovery still surrounded by rubble. That felt very computer game graphics to me. I don't know. I like the swooping in to the ship and going through a window. They've done that shot quite a bit in the series, and it's like a J.J. Abrams shot. And by the way, I know they're supposed to separate this from. This is supposed to be true canon and not the Kelvin universe, but man, it's very much J.J. Abrams Star Trek. I mean, just in look and feel and how they're, just in story and in every way. This is still J.J. Abrams.
It's almost like they took the J.J. Abrams look and desaturated it. He had this very like chromatic feel to everything and like kind of off tilt camera angles and like all the lens flares and stuff. And it feels like they took that and we're like, we like that, but we don't want it to be as like vibrant and colorful until they got into the network, into the Spore network where you have all the colors and it's very saturated in color. Like, I feel like they are very, I think they have a worry maybe of setting some of their like more fantastical elements apart from like the grittiness, the dirtiness of the storytelling. And they kind of went a little too far on that side maybe, or maybe it is what it is. But yeah, I agree with you. They not only stylistically is it very J.J. Abramsy, but my notes were interesting because it felt like I was taking notes on a Star Wars show instead of a Star Trek show. Like a lot of like, and then the rebel base, the rebels gave the information to Michael about where all the rebel bases are, and she needs to bring it back to the Empire and give it to them, but they're going to get away before the Empire can hunt them down. And it just felt like very like, hey, here's the beginning to Empire Strikes Back, or you know what I mean? So I do feel like they're drawing on that to make it more like actiony and less like sciencey, but at the same time they also went very in depth into scientific explanations of like Stamets's brain chemistry and how it's reacting to the spores and how like it's firing into space into nothingness and they need to like reconnect it to the network, and that's like Tilly's whole plan, right? So it's like they're going really deep into this into the choices they make. It's just that some of them like aren't like landing as far as some parts of the execution, and like it could be I think it has a lot to do with some of the writing, and it felt a little sloppy, and we'll get to some of those points too, particularly the fact that they let these two Empire like heroes, or one Empire hero, into the rebel camp, and they let down all their defenses to bring her in. Seemed absolutely lazy and ridiculous as far as the writing was concerned to me. But I like what we got when we got there, I guess. Anyway, I just feel like it's weird because it's this episode very specifically of all of them had a lot of really, really, really good stuff, and then like just little weird off things that felt like it didn't land. Like all the really cool stuff wasn't landing right for some reason.
Yeah, and I think that had a lot to do with the writer, which we'll get to in a second too.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. I know I keep taking us off further in.
Yeah, well, I just wanted the starting of the episode intrigued me because it picks up right where it left off, and Dr. Culber was dead. And that's Stamets' boyfriend, and some engineer found him. When they swooped in from the ship, an engineer found him, holding his boyfriend and talking about going through the forest and into the trees. And I'm like, cool, because I want to see what's in his head. I've been wanting to see what's in Stamets' head for, the last couple episodes. And I thought we were going to get that because that's the most interesting part to me. And we will get to that in a little bit. But we only got it for like one scene. I was like, and yeah, with some of the plans that they are coming up with, like when Michael Burnham has to go, they found the rebel base, the resistance. They called them rebels or resistance.
Rebels in this one, yeah.
And they said, well, let's just blow it up from space, which would be the good idea.
Right.
Blow it up from space. And Michael Burnham, she's like, I want to go down there and let's get our hands dirty. And that's, again, believable. But then she talks to Lorca and he's like, hell no. Just you and Ash go down. It's like, what? The guy with PTSD, you're going to take him again? And then, yeah, right. When they get down there, they're like, you killed all my friends. No, you got to trust me. Okay, come on. That was like, what? But I don't know. Again, it wasn't the events of this. It was the dialogue. But
the second scene was also, so it's funny because you honed in on that first scene, like the effects and like Stamets, and like I kind of glossed over that when watching it. Like I kind of took it in and was like, okay, that happened. And the next scene was the one that really struck me because it felt like an episode of The Handmaid's Tale. Like she's like taking a bath and there's like slow-mo smoke coming off of her, steam coming off of her. And, it's like this slave drawing her bath for her. And she's got like inner monologue about like this world that she's in now and this mirror universe and what it means. These, I just felt like it was so Handmaid's Tale. I know you haven't seen it, but I literally in my notes was like, was this directed by a Handmaid's Tale director? Like, because either that or they're just cribbing it, the style of it for this, like it's on trend or something.
Well, the look of that scene was good. I thought it looked cool, and that's where I was kind of tipped off on the dialogue was the inner monologue scene. It was just, I don't know if it was, I can't say it was delivered bad. I really can't. I think it was just kind of written kind of bad. And again, that's what took me out. I looked at the writer. I'm not going to call the person out, but on IMDb, and I saw that their credits weren't a lot of writing credits. It was a lot of script supervisor and a lot of assistant and stuff, which is cool. Everybody needs to get their shot. I understand that. I think it kind of brings forward the whole theory that Brian Fuller did have a lot of this written. It was pretty deep in, and when he bailed out, they didn't have time to bring on more writers. So I think they just had people kind of polish up what he did
and give him credit. Yeah,
and give him credit for it, which I totally get. So that, I mean, I'm almost making an excuse for a series that this has been through crazy scheduling changes, and we've talked about it, and I think that's why it's had trouble finding its feet. I felt like it kind of did last week. Yeah. And it needs to be consistent, which I know is a lot to ask for a first season of a TV show. It is. But it's Star Trek. You think they would be ready to go guns a-blazing.
That's what's funny too. Like the voiceover word, the inner monologue could very easily have been like a Stardate, blah, blah, blah. We're in the mirror universe. This is what's going on. Like it could have felt very naturally Star Trek to have that at that moment during the cold open. But they didn't do that. They just had it be like her inner thought bubble. And to me, that's always been kind of I've always interpreted that as like a laziness in writing, that like one, the hard thing in the visual medium of like TV or movies is that it's not like a book or a comic book. So when you adapt it, right, like you have inner monologue in books and you have like thought bubbles in comic books, and that's a way they get their thoughts across to the viewer. When you're watching a TV show or a movie, typically the thoughts have to come through the actions or dialogue. And so to just give us a character's thoughts in voiceover is usually kind of a sloppy way to me to do that thing. Like why didn't those thoughts come out during some sort of piece of dialogue, or some sort of like the ideas of that come through some sort of action? And that's where I kind of honed in on like, hey, this isn't the most dynamic way to get these things across. And so that's kind of a specific thing when I talk about sloppy writing or lazy writing, is something like that.
Yeah. And, or maybe, to use those words, sometimes it's lazy, sometimes it's sloppy, sometimes it's rushed. I mean, we weren't there, we don't know.
Yes.
And the writer has tons of credits on good shows like Dollhouse and The Shield, but also Desperate Housewives. And and what you brought up earlier with Jonathan Frakes being on that episode, I think made all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
And there's been this thing lately with TV shows. They did it with True Detective first season, and they did it with Mr. Robot, where you have one guy directing the whole season.
Yep.
And there is really something cool to that. It makes things really smooth and consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, And with TV, you used to not notice it much because it used to be there's just a standing camera and everything was kind of cookie cutter, but it's really different now. And visually, this is still a very cool show. I mean, like it's pretty, it's dark, it almost feels, I know even in these mirror universe, it feels less mean than it did earlier in the season. Feels like they've lightened up a little bit because like the danger, I don't get it, and this might be bad in this episode. I never felt like a great sense of danger, and this episode should have totally been really intense with the murder mystery, and just the whole fact that they're going to get caught every second. Even Micheal slipped up and called Saru double, called him by name.
Yeah,
and, he's a slave, and he doesn't have a name. And we also found out something that there's not many of his people left in the universe.
Yep.
So so she contacts the Discovery and talks to Tilly briefly, and then talks to Saru, and a couple of interesting things happen. He asks just nonchalant if there's a double of him anywhere, or not a double, but if there's any of his kind, and she lies to him. What do you think of that?
I thought I didn't love, like, I love it in the show. Like, I don't love it from the character, right? Like, I was watching that just like, why is Michael's instinct always wrong? Like, I like, for a character that's there to like trust her instinct. And I'm saying this is like a critique of the character, but I actually love that this is part of the show. So like, I'm not critiquing that, like what happened in the show. I'm critiquing it from like a Michael Burnham point of view, right? Like, I think that it's interesting that we have a character that has kind of like questionable instincts, and she's constantly relied on for those instincts. So it's like, hey, what are we going to do? Let's blow it up from space. No, I want to go get my hands dirty, because she thinks that's the best way to get information across to this other side that she thinks is like the better side of this battle. At the beginning with the mutiny, with this, where she's lying to Sarah about his people instead of just saying like, yeah, there is, and your race is subjugated in this universe. Like, I feel like she's always in the position to make these decisions, and her instincts are so flawed, and that makes it interesting. And that's why I wish that they wouldn't have started with the mutiny. And again, we went over this in take one, but like, it bothers me that we started with her making this really messed up decision that like as a Vulcan, she wouldn't have made, as a Federation officer, she wouldn't have made. It was such a questionable move, and it left like a really bitter taste about the character and her decision making within me, that like I question everything she does here in the series. And like, I have a hard time accepting her as like a decision maker. And I feel like that's something that the show, I wish those first few episodes had been very different, because I would probably feel very differently about the character in the show now if that hadn't have happened. Like, it's always in my mind that like, hey, why are you trusting this girl? She like totally effed up. Like, she caused this huge thing. Like, guys, like, why is anyone listening to her when she goes down and talks to Lorca and is just like, hey, we could do this, but I want to go down to the planet. And he's like, no, it's a terrible idea. And then she fights for her side of it, and he's like, actually, you're right, it probably is just the torture, I'm not thinking right, do what you're gonna do. And it's like, no, like, she's think about everything she's done, like, you can't do that. And so like, I think that that's been a disservice to her, for me, because I have a hard time now in those moments.
She's got priors, man.
Totally.
She's got priors. That's funny. It just made me think, like, do you think it would have been better? They would have had to switch a few things out, like them starting out on the Discovery, but maybe just done a season and had the mutiny and the Battle of Binary Stars, like, be the finale for season one. And that way you could have gotten to know Michael Burnham prior to that a little better and see how kick-ass of an officer she was. And
maybe agree with the decision in a way. Yeah. I think it would have been nice to not have that be the first thing we learn about her, and see her basically plead guilty to this thing that starts a war. Yeah, for sure.
And that would have been kind of like a Ned Stark moment where, the captain dies. Michelle Yeoh's character dies. Yeah, that might have been cool, but
Yeah,
yeah, you would have had to start out on the Discovery, and you couldn't have all those ships blowing up, but you still could have. Yeah, and you wouldn't have had Lorca, which I Lorca is a good character in the show. He
so good.
and yeah, I hate to say I like him, but he's a good character in the show.
Great character.
And there is something up with him. There is a theory that Mr. Langley came up with or told me about. I don't know if I doubt he came up with it, but maybe he did. He's a smart guy. And he said that, and I found it in other places too, that Lorca, this might be the mirror Lorca. Like, I remember last podcast, I mentioned that, maybe like the Prime Universe Lorca is going to die and they're going to end up going back with the mirror Lorca. But on that's when Langley popped in with the comment, no, like this might be the mirror Lorca.
Right.
Which would be very interesting. I don't know how the heck it would happen.
Yeah, I can't comprehend how that's a thing, but I wouldn't take it off the board. That would be very, very interesting.
And well, one thing that it could be is from our little Stamets scene. You want to just talk about it now? Because it was interesting. It was just like that. So they tied Stamets up because they think he killed his boyfriend. And we get a little shot in his head. I was like, finally. And he's walking through this very Avatar-like forest. Little brighter colors, but not much. And he runs into a version of himself that looks like he's in full mirror regalia. And he's all, I've been waiting for you. So what do you think is up with that?
I know, isn't that interesting? So I feel like that's hinting toward like Stamets' role in the universe is to be the link in the network between the like multiverse, right? So like I looked at that scene as like this is Stamets is there to live within the network, like he's the ghost in the machine, right? And that's just that's really all I took from it, and that even could be wrong, but like the whole episode was talking about like how the network that the spores travel within like works as far as like brain, like in an analog to brain chemistry and neuro pathways. And it went over my head for sure. Like I understood kind of where they were going with it, but it was very in depth to like what the science of this show is. And yeah, I felt like he was meeting the mirror Stamets inside the network, and that the mirror universe Stamets was already there, so he's in the same place. Did you view that differently? Like, is this like what did you take it as?
Well, I kind of caught this, and they have been alluding to this in Mr. Robot, where you can travel interdimensionally, maybe even in time, through the brain, which is something they've done in Doctor Who as well. That's what they've had, like meetings in dreams. They induce a dream state, and people from different time and space have a meeting while everybody's in their dream state. So that's I think that's it. That's how you access it. It's actually through the brain. And I'm not too sure about the science of that. I know the science of the spore network is Hollywood science. We'll be nice about that. But yeah, that's what I took from. And it'll be interesting to see if like, is this an evil Stamets? Or what? Probably, but are they gonna like have a fight, like a Professor X fight in the mind, on the astral plane, something like that? I wanted so much more of that scene, and I was like, damn.
Agreed. And do the spores have resurrection powers? Like the spores seem to have brought Stamets back when Tilly thought he was dead. Like what was that all about?
Yeah. I do not know. I still think it's a nod to that, and I gotta write this damn episode down from the original series where one of Kirk's friends turns into a god, basically, because the eyes look kind of the same. I think they're eventually maybe Stamets becomes like a big bad in some way. Who knows? Who knows? It will be. I think it's the most interesting thing in the show, to be honest with you. Though that's the kind of I want mess with that stuff all day long, and then that would explain why we haven't heard of the Discovery, because they're off jumping through universes trying to get back home or something like that, like Lost in Space or Deep Space Nine, except with other realities.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat. Hold on. I want to actually quote it. Oh, who said it? Somebody in the chat said they want an episode that is the ship that went from the mirror universe into the prime universe, like what's going on with that ship while this is all going on.
The Defiant, yeah,
The Defiant.
the one,
and I feel the same. Like I want to see that as well.
Yeah, it's weird that they didn't mention that again, like just even in passing, because that's important, because that's their way home without the spore drive, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get information. That's why they went and got that disc and everything. So, or that whatever, the thumb drive, the 23rd century thumb drive, whatever that was.
So another thing I want to give you some credit for is that during the
I love credit.
Yeah, because I kind of wrote it off. I mean, I didn't write it off, but like one of my favorite shows is The Genius, which is a South Korean reality show, and that whole thing is in subtitles. So when you were talking about how the Klingon speaking the Klingon language wasn't great and the subtitles took you out of it, I was like, I don't know, like subtitles are subtitles, like we get it all the time. But this episode, when they go to the rebel base and Vok is there speaking English as a Klingon, I was watching it like, man, if this was how like the initial scenes kind of played out with the Klingons, like where the actors were allowed to just speak English and do their thing, like that would have been so much better. Like I actually saw the counterpoint to it in this episode, and it's so good. Like I did realize in that moment how much I would have preferred like the assumption that we understand what they're saying, because we saw a little bit of that when they had the translator when they went aboard. When Michael and Giorgio, I think, went aboard, and they had the translator, and then they were like speaking English on the show, or like it was being translated in real time or whatever. And that was already better. But now seeing like Vok interact with the Andorians and the humans and stuff and the Vulcans in that meeting, I was like, this is like, I like this. Like this, give me more of this. This is great. Like I loved the look of the look of all the different races and just like this council. Like I just loved everything about that. I want the show to be more of that. If they can do that, I hope they do.
Yeah, because it's hard. That's why you got to give credit to actors like Doug Jones as Saru and Andy Serkis when he's doing Planet of the Apes or whatever. You got to be a hell of an actor to have like tons of makeup on and still be able to show emotion. And you know, it's not easy to do with like an inch thick of makeup and speaking your language. So they're doing that and they're speaking Klingon. It just sounds like blah, blah, blah to me, really. And they were having a hard time speaking through the makeup. You can tell. And it made all the difference in the world. You know, it gave them a voice. Now, part of that was probably we wanted to hide the identity of Ash Tyler, you know, and honestly, they did it. I mean, I couldn't, you know, now that I see it, okay, it's like, yeah, I can see his face under that. But they did a pretty good job of hiding that. But man, the reveal took a long time and everybody was way onto it. Now, I wasn't sure like how they did it, but we found out, and it was basically they crushed him up. They put an Ash Tyler skin suit on him, basically.
It seems like it. Yeah, that seems like it. Because he said there was no Ash Tyler or there isn't anymore, which is not helpful in figuring out if it was like blending two beings together or like carving one being into another being. So I'm still assuming that there is some Ash Tyler parts in Vok, but I don't know. I agree with you though. The voice, so the actual reveal, I didn't love how they handled in this episode, but I would say that the best part of it was having that actor go in between his Vok voice and his Ash voice was pretty impressive to see. I don't know if you noticed that little moment in there because it was a long scene and maybe you dozed off like I did at certain points. But I did love the moment where he like was going in between the two voices. I thought it was cool. He did a great job at that. They should have just done that all the way.
Yeah, they should have.
And where was Michael? So during that scene where they go down to the rebel meeting, I guess the meeting of rebel leaders, whatever the hell that was, when they go down there, when Vok recognizes Ash Vok or when Ash Vok attacks Vok Vok or Mirror Vok, they like start fighting, and Michael is like, "Whoa, ah, whoa!" For somebody that we've seen like charge into battle and like kill Klingons and stuff, for her to just be like, "I don't know what's going on," was so weird. Like, I don't know if you thought the same thing, but I was like, "Where's Michael in this? Like, why isn't she like holding her friend back?" Like afterwards, she's like, "Hey guys, I don't have anything to do with that guy. Like, trust me, we're all good." But like, she did nothing to like hold him back or settle down that problem.
Yeah, she just let him work it out. She didn't have her phaser. She probably would have stunned him. But I mean, I could buy that it shocked her if she had no idea that there was something up. But I think she did have an idea that there was something up with him. And maybe she thought it was his PTSD kicking in or whatever. It was something way worse, obviously. And yeah, we got that little scrape. That was weird. It was weird. But yeah, you know, this show, I'm starting to accept some of the weird things that happen in the show. And that's okay.
I'm sorry, I'm still on this thing. If she so she doesn't jump in to like help at like Ash Vok or push him back or whatever. Like if the rest of Vok's buddies were less like, hey, let's just break this fight up, and were more like stabby on Ash Vok, he could have just been murdered right there. Like she didn't like the end result is the not
Rocky. Yeah, he decided not to kill him.
Right.
Yeah, she
what if he just been like, fuck this guy, Shank? Like he did nothing to stop that.
That takes care of that.
Yeah, exactly. It's so weird.
I was just looking at my notes here at General Order 4, and I didn't write it down. It was basically kill anything that doesn't look like us and can't help us.
Right, exactly. Yep.
What were the first 3 orders? That's all I want to know.
Yeah. What's order 1? Jeez.
Yeah, what is order 1? Jeez. Yeah, okay, and we talked about the Lorca stuff. When she goes back with Ash after that, and that we get the reveal that we've been talking about. And earlier we got execution by transporter.
Yes, I had that in my notes too.
Yeah, getting space. Yeah, I can't remember that being done and stuff. I mean, I've seen transporter accidents. It's probably been done. It's like getting spaced in the Expanse. That's how they deal with people. They just throw them into space. I thought for what we've seen so far, that was like a humane execution for what we've seen out of these people so far.
It was very Minority Report, where they were like, for having thoughts against your emperor, you were now going to die, and then they just beam them out into like the coldness of space. It was brutal. It was like Minority Report meets like I don't know, beaming death. We also got a Takuvma shout out again this episode, so still unforgettable. Takuvma, congrats.
Yeah, and again, the only thing missing to make the Star Wars is a supernatural religion, which maybe through him we can get. I don't know. I'm going to say it every damn podcast. I'm still waiting for an explanation of why the Klingons look like this. Okay. And I have missed out on a lot of stuff because I didn't watch Enterprise, the full season, all 4 seasons of Enterprise. I watched the last 2, but there are some stuff that I was bitching about that they actually explained in that, and I watched it later, and they've dealt with some stuff. So, that was good, but they still need to explain why the Klingons look like this.
Yeah,
that's really important to me. I don't know why, but it is.
David Foreman in the chat says, also, people don't freeze in space. How is that still a thing? Writers don't get. Sorry for the rant. Interesting. Yeah. Well, I guess it looks okay. I don't know, but yeah, they just need to have them not look frozen and die with no air. Do they explode? Like, is it just they just suffocate? David, let me know in the chat.
Yeah, I don't know. It's cold. It's a vacuum, so I thought, but there's pressure inside. I've heard people explode, but I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't think we've admitted to putting something living in space, but I'm sure they have. But yeah, I don't know. There's smarter people than me in the chat who can probably let us know. But then we got to get to the Sarek scene, because this is really when I'm like what I'm honing in on with the bad dialogue. It was pretty acceptable up until, you know, he does the mind meld and he sees that it's not the Michael Burnham he expected, and she is no threat to us and everything. But then he says, and I tried to write this down fast, but I'm just going to paraphrase, just that she's basically, he basically says she's the bestest person ever. What was it? It was
the deepest compassion of any human,
bursting human potential, a child molded by wisdom, impossible depth of compassion, or something like that. What the hell?
They called him the prophet, so I guess he had to speak in riddles in that moment. I don't know. It was very, very.
Maybe that's how he talks. Maybe that's.
But he didn't speak like that after. Like he then had to explain himself after, which was, "She's fine. Don't kill her." Like that's all he really had to say, and Bach was cool. So yeah, agreed. I liked Sarek though. Like I like having him in the episode. I like Mirror Sarek. Goatee finally.
But I was kind of hoping it would be like Mirror Spock. You know what I mean? Instead of, you know, doing this resistance thing. But it's, you know, if you want to have a Mirror Sarek, make him well, he was kind of a dick in the part. They made him nicer. That's the one thing that's weird about this show. Like everything is mean except for Sarek. He's a lot nicer in this show than he was anywhere else. At least a Michael Burnham. Yeah, no wonder why him and Spock had a falling out. He liked this adopted daughter way better than him. I get Spock now.
I felt like in the initial flashbacks with Michael, he was harsh. Like he had a harsh edge to him until she like had that moment with him in the shuttle and then left him, like where she was angry. They definitely showed that he was hard on her, like he is on Spock. But this, like I think they allude to, as he gets older, he gets softer in this story, although that is kind of a weird retcon. And then, you know, I guess Mirror Sarek, like all of the harsher races seem to be more softer, and, you know, or at least more open-minded, I guess, in this mirror universe. Like, you know, Klingons and Vulcans working together and like whatever, you know, like they're doing things that are the opposite of what they would do in the non-mirror, which is the point, right? But yeah, I think that they're all a little softer as far as that's concerned.
Yeah. I don't know. It was weird. There's like a couple of moments of like weird validation in this, like with Saru talking to Telly about, you know, you've really done really great work with Stamets design. You actually did it better. I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I don't know. That was weird to me.
Arturo says, "Dying she is, kill her not."
Yeah, that's great. Right. So, you know, Lorca, again, he's just getting tortured. And so she brings him in the office to do personal torture to him, Michael, that is, and gives him a glass of water and doesn't take his advice and sends him away.
Well, yeah, she's like, "Okay, we can finally leave." And he's like, "No, we've got more to do." And she's like, "Yeah, but like, we did what we came to do, and you're getting tortured every day, and that's not great. And, you know, I think we could probably," and he's like, "Nope, I'd rather get tortured and stay here, so that we can see who the emperor, you know, so we can get this emperor reveal with me on the bridge with you," which is why they did that. And and so, you know, like Lorca is definitely acting in the best. He's really thinking about, if this were a TV show, what do I need to do to be in this position in the next episode? It's
right.
But I still really like the character. I wish we had more Lorca right now. Like I almost wish Michael were being tortured and Lorca were having to make these decisions. Is that mean to say? Like I want, like, we've seen a lot of like her on away missions making decisions for things that were really important. And like I'm curious to see what Lorca would do in the same. It's the mirror universe. How about we have Lorca do it instead of Michael this once? So yeah, that's something I wish we could see. I get why we can't, everyone. Like, I get why, you know, like he's in the mirror universe, he's the rebel and she's the one who hunted him down or died, you know, to their story. So I get why it is the way it is, but as a viewer, like it would be fun to see that actor tackling some of this stuff for sure.
Yeah. And no, the interesting thing is I like the fact that they're following a first officer, but they keep kind of making her captain. So but when I think Ash, who I didn't hate at all as a character, but I'm really interested because I thought for when he's going to get executed by Michael, for turning, they had that fight and he attacked her and he got saved, or she got saved by Saru, so they're going to execute him on the transporter. And I was like, man, are they really going to kill him? And I figured he would get like zapped in mid transporter, but I didn't catch why they did it. That was pretty good. That
the information that they hit on him.
Yeah, that was a way to get it out of the ship. But we didn't see a scene of her contacting the Discovery, which is good. That keeps the mystery going.
Yeah, that was
and letting them know the coordinates and all that stuff on that, I guess, secure channel. That's why we saw it earlier. So that was interesting because now we're going to get this totally different Ash Tyler. We're going to get Vok.
Yes,
in a skin suit, in a human skin suit.
In my notes, I had, I wish they had left the fate of Ash Vok as a cliffhanger. I wish that there had been some speculation about, like, did she beam him to like the rebels to take care of him? Like they'll deal with him. Did she just kill him like she said she did? Did she send him back to the Discovery? Like I think that most people would think that she sent him to the Discovery somehow. But I wish that had been kind of a cliffhanger for like us to talk about and for like to think about more, because it was a slick move. Like hide the information, send him out into space, and have Discovery beam him in before he dies. I thought that was really cool. It's maybe my second favorite thing about this episode was that move right there. So I wish that they kind of waited to reveal what had happened.
Yeah. So we got God, I'm forgetting her last name. Apologies, everybody, but I know her first name was Philippa. Michelle Yeoh's character. Georgiou. Okay. And she is the Emperor, which we called last episode, right? Didn't we call that one? We said it's either that or Lorca.
Yeah, in the chat, we're like, it's Michelle.
Yeah. So no big surprise there. And she looks really different though. I don't know what it is. But I was like, wow, she looks, maybe it was just her hair. I don't know. And you caught that smirk from Lorca.
Yeah.
I think there was something more to that smirk than just like, haha, it's her. Maybe not. I'd like to hear from in the chat. I'd also like to hear, where do you all think the real or the mirror Michael Burnham and the mirror Lorca are? Because they're not dead. They didn't find any bodies. So using comic book logic, if you don't see a body in an autopsy, they are not dead. So where do you think they are? Do you think they traded places, or is this a big trap? Did they know from the get-go that this was just the discovery from another universe? And maybe Stamets, the other Stamets, told them or something. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it would be cool if like Lorca were leading the rebellion and he's got Burnham imprisoned. Although I don't know how he would do that and keep that from all of the other rebel captains, like Vok and Sarek and the Andorian. I don't know if he has a name or not. But yeah, I don't know how he would like keep that. But that would be like, I would love to see something of that nature, where like Lorca is part of the rebellion, maybe even Michael Burnham is part of the rebellion. But like, definite, like I would prefer to see like Lorca have escaped and have her imprisoned somewhere. Like really mirror universe this thing up.
Oh, I saw what you did there. So let's get to some of our comments. I don't know if you've been scanning them. I just pulled them up.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here. So let's start at the bottom. Maybe the current Lorca seems the Mirror One and Prime Universe One killed in action long ago. Okay, so K Sizzle says, is this kind of like a reboot of the show with Cho's character now the leader?
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
If you mirrored the beginning, that would be interesting. Just kind of flip the script on it. And I'm wondering if this the mirror Vok, I'm wondering if he tags along too. We're definitely going to get some tag alongs there. Some people were even talking in the comments, or was it the comments? I think it was the comments about Dr. Culber like the mirror version, getting coming back with Stamets. There's a lot of coincidental meeting in a giant universe between people who are doubles, by the way. But that's okay. That happened in regular Star Trek too. So,
So David Foreman responds to your Klingon look comment and says, if the Klingons look like the old school ones, Ash would be a dead giveaway. It's for the sake of the plot.
Yep, that's true. That's true. So maybe they do that in the beginning. Well, I mean, were they that in love with that twist? Then just I don't know.
Seems like they're pretty married to that Vok is Ash and Ash is Vok.
Twist, then just get a different actor, and there's not change the damn look of the Klingons. But well.
Joe D was talking about how strangely enough Michael doesn't always act Vulcan so much as seem like a human doing a Vulcan impression at times. You mentioned that in take one. What do you think about Michael and her Vulcanness?
I think it's gone now, other than maybe trying to raise an eyebrow once in a while. And she did try to Vulcan pinch Vok Tyler, which that's the thing I have a huge problem with, because in the original series, like Kirk even mentions, like, I wish you would show me how to do that, and it's a Vulcan thing. They can do it because they're really strong. That's part of it. It's not just a pressure point. Okay. It's due to their strength. So maybe now it's just a pressure point. So her Vulcan, I stopped noticing it. For a while I just thought it was her acting.
Yeah, me
but
too.
There's a lot of there's so many inconsistencies. Like Tilly was, I've seen she's like matured as the season goes on, but it's in big chunks. Like this episode, I even messaged you. I'm like, which Tilly are we watching right now? Because this isn't the one I've been watching for the last. And maybe under stress she gets more serious or something like that. Then explain that a little bit, please.
Yeah,
because that was weird.
Stop George, who definitely likes this show a lot. And I get it. Like there's a lot to like. There's a lot to like about this show. And I'm getting there. I'm definitely getting there. He says, he's talking about how Michael got all the info for the Defiant, and like that's what like her goal has been now, and maybe why she was ready to go, and Lorca was like, hey, let's stay here. So
and that's interesting why he wants to stay.
Yeah, it is interesting, especially when he smirked after seeing Emperor Georgiou. Like I'm curious to know like what's going on with the Defiant. I think that's a story that I'm ready for now. I hope we get it soon.
Yeah, that will be cool. I mean, we're gonna get it, and that's probably gonna be where they end the season, and we'll see some good old Star Trek stuff, and that will kind of tie it in very loosely to Enterprise and of course the original series, which is good, because we want to feel like this is a shared universe. And again, I'll repeat what John and I said. You and I don't trip off the tech too much. Like, the tech is way different, and it's the buttons are they look like real tech, but in 30 years it'll look lame too. I don't have a problem with that. I can suspend.
You have to make your show look good for now. Jody says, hey Gary, isn't it a bit funny that the mirror universe seems a lot less dark than the main universe on Discovery?
Right.
Seriously.
That's weird.
Seriously, strange.
Yeah, no, that's what I said that last podcast. I said, what if the Discovery crew just traded places and nobody noticed in the Prime universe? These guys are a bunch of dicks.
Yeah. No,
that's why we put them all on the same ship.
Yep. Yeah. It's funny because I was talking to somebody at one point about Mr. Robot too. And like one of the things they said was like, yeah, Mr. Robot. And this was like early in the second season when people were like, when the show was having a little bit of growing pains, and they were like, yeah, I've gotten to the point of Mr. Robot now where it's like, I'd rather live in the Mr. Robot universe. Like our stuff's going, everything's going so crazy in our own universe. Like, why is Mr. Robot looking like the bright time, the good, this is not the darkest timeline anymore. I just think
and they had to change the show because of that too. And they even, it gets meta. They mention it. It's funny. They have a little scene there. Yeah. What is Jody saying? But Gary, if you just cast two different actors, there wouldn't need to be such heavy makeup for the Klingons. Whatever prosthetic they're using for the teeth makes them difficult to understand. Yeah, that's just leave the teeth out, I guess. Maybe, I don't know. Spock could cause what did it say? Spock could do it because he's part Vulcan, but have regular human. Oh, this is talking about the Vulcan pinch. But to have a regular human ever been able to sexually, yeah, I'm getting tired, successfully sexually perform the Vulcan pinch. Yeah,
that's a different Vulcan mind. Now that's a Vulcan pinch that I'll tune in.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, well, I'm sure we'll get it in this show.
Klingon sex and Vulcan sexual Vulcan pinches.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there is some big time Star Trek fans who will. I guarantee you, there's one who will explain how that it's an impossibility. There's no way a human could do it, and there's one that's going, no. It happened in this point, and they talked about it in this. Yeah, that's what I've been finding out, because like after we had our little break, I went and checked myself on information and checked other people, and I found that like a lot of things can be explained on both sides of the argument if you use everything as canon, and there's still the debate of what is canon or what is not. A lot of people think the animated series is canon. There's still some out there who say it's not. I'd say, what the hell, let it count. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, like,
I like the animated.
None of it is canon, and it's just fun, like I don't know which way to go on it, because I that's what I love about a lot of this serialized stuff is like I want everything to be canon, but it's hard not to contradict yourself if you're doing that sort of thing.
It's really hard, even on a podcast when you do hours and hours.
Yep,
I can do it within a podcast. You watch or listen.
I think we have, yeah.
Right? I'm sure I did today.
Me too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, but we are podcast warriors, man. We don't let modems going down stop us. No,
dude, I'm impressed. Like, that was, if my modem exploded, I would have been like, sorry, man, I'm off tomorrow. We can do it during, I'll go up. But no, you ran right out to the store, picked one up. Good job, man. Thank you.
Hey, thanks. Hey, Target was still open. It's close. Excuse to go to Target. And of course, like, I took an extra few minutes because I had to like get this awesome Daredevil action figure here. So I can't pass up the toy aisle, man. Sorry.
That is so funny.
Right.
I need a modem and an action figure, because
an action figure. There you go.
Having a bad night. I need an action figure.
Yeah. All right. Well, not a terrible episode. Bad dialogue, but good events. Okay.
Yeah. So
it's coming around, and again, we're going to give this thing a lot of chances because it's Star Trek, and I want there to be a Star Trek, and I don't want there to be another one. I don't want them to scrub this. Just fix it. There's certain things you can fix. It's freaking science fiction. Find a way. And you don't have to fix everything. And this show does have great potential to do some fun stuff. And I bet you the second season is a lot better.
Yeah.
And I think this second half will, so far it's better.
Yes,
for sure. So yeah, once you get past, especially the month break helped too. Once you get past all the preconceived notions and even fan entitlement. Okay, I'll admit it, fan entitlement. You just like are grateful that there's Star Trek. Is it perfect? No, but we also have the Orville. So we kind of win both ways.
You get the best of both.
I had my perspective on the Orville kind of flipped. There's Red Letter Media was talking about it, and he enjoyed it too. And then he kind of ruined it for me because he's like, they're just recycling. And I know they recycled some Star Trek ideas, but every episode is a recycled Next Generation episode. And he breaks it down. I gotta stop watching this guy because he ruins so much stuff.
The thing is, like, I'm always okay with that. Like, as long as you make something good and it's entertaining, like, copy stuff. Like, I don't care. Like, you have to make it generally. Like, I don't want you to just use the same. Like, don't remake stuff. But like, it's different characters playing through the same scenario. I think there's something interesting about that. I'll always kind of like, man, Oasis is my favorite band. Every song that they have is just almost like letter for letter another person's song with different lyrics over it. So I'm okay with a little bit of aping really good stuff and kind of twisting it into something good and unique.
That is, and then, yeah, and oh god, we're so far into it. Like you said, they nodded the Handmaid's Tale. They're
Yeah.
definitely nodding the Star Trek. What did
Getting
I got to
meta.
respond to a content. Ghost World said, "Nice. I actually just got a Usagi Yojimbo action figure. That is cool." And Stan Sakai is Bay Area guy, and my son used to go to a Japanese bilingual bicultural school,
Clarendon?
and yes, yeah, Indigo went there.
That's awesome.
That's why he knows a little Japanese. And Stan Sakai used to support that school. So every time they had a fundraiser, he would draw a sketch, and we sell it in an auction.
That's
And
dope.
I ended up buying like all the sketches and hanging them up in the
Yeah.
store. He's super cool guy. Love Usagi Yojimbo. And like that comic, I didn't buy a ton of them, but it always sold out. I always like put 5 or 6 on the shelf. They were always gone first week. So
Arturo says, just don't ruin it like Star Wars. So good.
well,
The Galaxy
at least
Testing
Disney's
series.
not going to fuck this one up, Arturo.
Yeah.
It might be CBS, but it's not going to be Disney.
Wait until Disney buys CBS next year, Gary.
Oh man, what did Dennis say that who's for sale? It was somebody big. It was Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers might be for sale now. There was like some weird rumor, and I just speculated like maybe like Apple or Amazon or something like that might buy.
Amazon would be very smart to do that. That would be
yeah. So look for that one next. Not sure about that. Again, file that under rumor, but that'd be nuts and bad. But yeah, I like this show. I'm looking forward to it next week. And I can't wait for the Orville to come back either. We're going to be covering every episode of the Orville. That was my mistake. So yeah, any final words on this, John?
No, nothing. I mean, before we go, I just want to say, like, we've got a lot coming down the pipe. We're digging the Star Trek stuff, but keep an eye out for all the other stuff we're doing. Happy, we've got tons of Happy, our Friday night show where we're talking about all sorts of stuff. You can come in and ask us questions. We also have super chat going on, so if you want to like tip us for anything we do, just hit the little $ at the bottom of the chat. We try to answer questions you give no matter what, but if you want to help support us, it's right there. At the bottom, you can support us on Patreon as well as patreon.com/nerdrotic. There we have a bunch of tiers. You get a couple freebies as well as, supporting this podcast so we can keep turning out as much podcast material as possible. I've also got a D&D game that we're going to be starting up in February 1st called The Campaign. I actually showed GOD some of the recorded tests of it to see if he likes it because he's an RPGer. So hopefully you like that stuff, Jody. And yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Jon Reed 16, JONREED 16. Gary is at Nerdrotics. And you can also find us on Facebook and like us over there. It's facebook.com/Nerdrotic podcast. Everything's in the show notes. But yeah, we've got a lot going on, and like Star Trek is definitely becoming one of those that I'm really excited to dig into, because no matter if I have nitpicky things about what's going on the show, they're always giving me something I like and stuff to talk about, like interesting, like especially with the mirror universe. There's so much cool stuff to like speculate about, and that's what we really like to do over here. So Star Trek's becoming one of those speculation topics that I'm definitely digging.
Yeah, there's some decent mysteries, and I think they're holding Stamets back because he's a really interesting character, and they can do a good couple of episodes on him that I think could be really good. There's a lot of great story potential there.
Ghost World says he's withholding his $2 tonight because we didn't love it because we disagree on some aspects of this episode. That's fair.
That's totally okay. Fair. That's totally fair. I understand.
We'd rather have your ears and eyes than your $2.
Yes, most definitely. No, that's what I'm looking forward to. Yeah, we've got a lot to do. We've got what is next?
X-Files.
We got the Gifted finale tomorrow, and then maybe Black Lightning on Tuesday if we can work it out. X-Files and Happy on Wednesday, then the Friday show, and then it's all starting up again. Then the Alienist is coming, and then then Ash vs. Evil Dead is just around the corner. Cannot wait. So lots of fun stuff. Oh, and I'm off the next 3 weeks. So yeah, I'm going to be putting up videos a lot. So I'm going to have some fun and take a little staycation.
I have a project coming up in February. So hopefully for the next couple of weeks while you're off, I can show up for some extra content in there because I may go a little MIA in February, at least on the Friday shows, while I produce some live shows for another content creator out there. Shout out to Rob over at Rob Has a Podcast. But
Rob
I got hired to
there
do
you
something
go.
that I gotta do. Can't turn down.
No,
but,
that's all good. Doing
hopefully
some
in the meantime,
Big Brother stuff.
Yeah, Big Brother, Celebrity Big Brother, if anyone's into that stuff.
But, that's fun. That's gonna be fun. That's all good.
But in the meantime, I'm happy that you're gonna be turning out so much stuff in the next few weeks because those are my beauty. You know, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go in the next couple of weeks, and we can load up on special podcasts.
This is a blast, guys, and thanks everybody for participating in the chat as usual. Sorry I didn't get over it as much as I would like. It was kind of a crazy night tonight, but we read it all. I'm over here chuckling. You guys are funny, man. You guys are really funny. And yeah, so may the small folks sing songs of your greatness.
Awesome. Bye, everybody. See you soon.
Cheers.